you have any questions on composting?
What types of businesses in Nashville would be ideal for composting?
I would say industrial. I'm out in the market, and there's a lot of, for example, I went to a landscaping business, and they're throwing away like all their trees and all that kind of stuff.
Clippings and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. But like, and I was thinking like here, there's not really a lot of food and stuff that we throw away. But like maybe a restaurant business,
Exactly.
you know, where they're throwing out stuff just in the dumpster or whatever, that could be. But then like, where would you do that in Nashville? Like, there's not a place for a great big pile of compost.
Well, I mean, there's just like the landfill is out in, I forgot where it's at, but it's just a large piece of property, so you can just go out into probably about 30 miles away and get a big open land and just start. I imagine you can either start with just basic piles until you start turning that around,
So
and then
business would have to purchase land
Yeah,
to be able to do that.
yeah,
And it made me think it's a great opportunity for a composting business to start up, you know, like a
Yeah.
trash business. You
Yeah.
go and like go to like apartment complexes where people don't have places
Yes,
to do
exactly.
that, and have like compost bins set up and just come and pick it up and take it to whatever land, wherever, and do whatever
Exactly.
process.
Because one thing I mentioned to the lady that was doing the landscaping business, because she was like, "Oh yeah, I just throw this stuff away,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, you can compost it," and she's like, "Well, I would have to pay my employees to go drop it off, and it's cheaper to throw it away than it is to compost it." And basically, there is not that many businesses don't know of the one company that's out there that goes and picks up that trash, because I looked on their website and you can leave a bucket outside, and they service pretty far out. So I mean, it's, you know, you just have to be willing to go drive and get that compost material.
But I wonder about the composting business. Are they like from start to finish, like they go pick it up and put it in the pile and let it compost, but then do they take the next step and package it and resell it for
I think that's what
soil and et cetera?
Holy Cow is, right?
Okay.
And they pretty much, it's marketing, and you'll have to create a bag to put the materials into, or the fertile soil into, and then sell it as well.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's a pretty start to finish process that you would have to like really organize and put together, but the opportunity is there, and Nashville's growing at a rapid rate, and like there's businesses out there that want to do the right thing, especially at a restaurant level or anything like that.
Are there other cities that have done this?
Yes, Sanford. Were you at my last?
I was, but I don't.
Remember? Sure. Calling out San Francisco. San Francisco has diverted 80% of their waste from going into a landfill, and there's a guy there who's, if you watch one of the videos, he's doing composting, and he's basically taking all that in. So San Francisco's doing it, and they're huge.
So is there a problem? So I guess part of that, like, I can see being a big problem with people putting other stuff in there, like you can't put meats in compost and that kind of stuff. You know, do they sort through it, or is that?
I didn't look into that, but I imagine like that's why recycling costs so much, is because you have to have someone sort through it.
Mm-hmm.
So you really would have to be creative on how it might be taking like a mesh thing to cipher through the materials that are coming through to let some stuff fall through, and that way you don't have to basically sort through it. But there will probably have to be some sorting of it. But I mean,
or you hit big restaurants or something like that and forget about consumers for now, or you know.
Yeah. Or you start
can't
off.
put meat in home compost, or you just can't put meat in compost.
It ruins compost. It doesn't, and that's part of, like, my grandparents and stuff have always composted, so I know, you know, quite a bit about it. But like when you put meats in there, it can ruin it, and it makes it stink. You know, if you're doing compost really right, you don't really smell it. But when you start putting meats and other stuff in there that aren't really compostable, then you start to ruin it and start to cause lots of problems.
I mean, there's and that's what I looked up, is just like, this is a business that you can start and you can start small and work it big. You can start it in your own home and start marketing out to landscaping business and start there and get their organic materials. And then you can really be strategic in how you're, you know, if you got restaurants over here, you got that material going into one pile and the other. So it's, the market is out there to go and recruit these people. And I mean, right now, per a ton of waste, it costs between $50 and $60, and I believe you can charge like $30 to $40 a ton on composting materials. So it's a little bit of a save there.
Yeah.
And I mean, we got to start being creative, because if we don't start composting in Nashville, our landfill is gonna fill up. And I work for the closest landfill, and they're coming up with, you know, opening another one and all that kind of stuff. But I can only imagine that, you know, it's costing us this much money to open another landfill. Like, that cost is going to be passed on to the consumer. So it's only a matter of time before, you know, Nashville's, like, sky rises are coming up left and right, and waste is only, that means it's going to triple our waste. So it's really how we choose to do it.
So if y'all,
You can,
I'm good. I don't have a question.
so if y'all are have plans to open another landfill, why don't you have plans to open a compost?
I don't know, I haven't asked the question. I always, it's like on the tip of my tongue when I have our GM in there, but I always like chicken out of it, because he says he goes to like colleges and talks to people about recycling, but I want to be like, yeah, I get that there's no money out there for recycling because there's not a market to take in the materials, but what about composting? You, like, that methane gas that's going into the air and the space that it's taking up, it's just like, to me, it's a no-brainer. If you have that property that's out there, why not just take it and put these piles somewhere else and let it turn? And you know, you can start small until you get your mind together on how to do it. So I'm chicken out every time I talk to them.
And I'm curious about the landscaping companies. You said it's cheaper just for them just to throw the stuff away. Where are they typically throwing it away? I mean, are they taking it to a landfill? Or are they?
They buy a container, like a 4-yard container, an 8-yard container, dump it in there, and then we come and pick it up and throw it away into landfill.
So then, at that point, it would be cost effective for your company, I'm just saying, to, instead of putting that in the landfill, to take that to the compost thing.
Yes.
And I mean, that's already, already dedicated, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's, I mean, it makes sense, but it's really,
Yeah.
but then again, if you even start up a small composting business, someone like my company will see it and probably come buy it out. So really, you're just starting the money up.
The groundwork.
Yeah. And that's sometimes what big companies need.